Hey guys, welcome to RC Video Reviews on Friday the 19th. A little late tonight, but hey, better late than never. Work got in the way, you know how it is, man. So let's see who got in here first. I think Hobie crushed it. I think Hobie was right. Yeah, he was. He was in there first, and then Robert was in there second. Hobie's alive and kicking, he says. Drummond Stewart is here. How you doing, Drummond? HB Jeff, Canadians representing. Jeff says hot Alberta. They were posting pictures in Discord. I guess 94 degrees up there. The Canucks aren't used to that. that's just mid-morning here in Florida on an average summer day. So it's kind of funny. I'm curious about their humidity, though. I noticed they haven't been posting that. Robert, you installed AC in that awesome new show you have. No, you're not. Okay, they're talking about the new shop. Fast Freddy, are you saying I have to pick between the PilotJam and women's wrestling tonight? Not really, man. You know where to hang out. You're here, right? It wasn't much of a choice. Easy. Johnny Stansel, never first. Again, you got to get up early to fool these boys, man. They're on it. Bill's here. How you doing? Lucky sixth today. Bill, it's getting worse, man. You used to normally come in around third. Now it's all the way down at 6, huh? Steve Barrow is here. How you doing, Steve? Glad you can make it. William Tam is here. Hello. And that's it. I broke my like button watching women on trampolines. Is that? I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. I don't even know. I'm just gonna not touch it. I'm gonna back away, politely back away. All right, let's talk about the week in review. Obviously, it has been a little bit of a week, right? We had the. It's been a long time since we had a PilotJam. It's been like a month, and you know what happened? Vacations. You know, life happens. The boss says we need to take some time off. She wanted to get out and do some stuff with the family. So that's just how it is, man. But, you know, it was good. It was good family time. A little bit of downtime on the channel. We were definitely out of pocket. And I enjoyed it. It was good to get away. But, you know, it's always good to get back. I love radio control, and I missed it. But I'm happy to be back in the saddle, and we're doing videos again, working on the production schedule again. I got some new stuff inbound again, and we've got a lot to cover tonight, man. I've got a lot to cover. So while we weren't doing videos, I still accrued a bunch of activity, as it were, over the period. So anyway, the first, obviously, you know, we right about the time the Nexus launched, that's about the time the vacation started, and we got through a couple of the videos. We got all the way up to the motor setup, which was 4 out of 5. And I got to tell you guys, we are planning the 5th video. That's still in work. But it's a little bit of a challenge because in the Nexus, in the Rotor Flight side, there's still some open discussion about best practices. So we want to be careful about, you know, the rough thing about doing a video is that once you do the video, that's it. There's no edits, no take backs, you know, it's up there and that's that. So we want to be careful not to put a video up that may run contrary to the guidance given by the Rotor Flight team when it comes to PID tuning, because if you've ever done this, you know that PID tuning is a little bit of black magic. You know, you can see a couple of configs that are wildly different that behave the same way. And there's a lot of little details and nuance. You know, there's this whole concept of the mechanical interaction of the helicopter with the software and with the PID loop and with gyro noise and, you know, all that stuff. So we are going to do it. We haven't forgotten. It's 100% going to happen, but we want to be careful, and we're talking through maybe some of the ways we're going to approach it. We have some ideas mapped out, but all I can say is hang tight. We will get to the PID loop tuning. In the meantime, here's what I would suggest. If you look at the configurations I've posted, they will be enough to get you up in the air and flying. That much I can say, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in more detail shortly. But start there and maybe do some reading on your own, do a little testing, and hang tight for the advanced tuning stuff. But what I can say is that my configurations, and based on what Rob and I did on the videos, you'll 100% get up in the air. I am proof of that, and again, I'll get into the details there in a little bit. Anyway, the next video was upgrading EdgeTX, things you need to know, and that was right after coming back from the vacation. And after the vacation, what ended up happening was, you know, I just looked at a bunch of questions, and I tried to consolidate some of the frequently asked questions into a video. And the intention there really is for those of you who are in and around EdgeTX over time, to use that as a reference when people ask questions like, hey, what's the deal with upgrading OpenTX to EdgeTX, or, what do I lose my binding, or do I lose my models, or, all those recurring questions that constantly come up. So anyway, that's the idea on that one. It's to give you guys a reference, and for those who are, who need a little assistance, to give them a reference on things they'll want to understand during their migrations to EdgeTX, or upgrades for that matter. The next up was a basic. I thought we'd get back in the saddle with production with a video on how to mix ailerons and flaps. And if you have a plane like, say, a Bushmaster, and you've got flaps and it's a 3D plane and a really capable plane, sometimes it's really fun to mix those and mix your ailerons and flaps to give you what you call sport flaps or sport ailerons, or whatever you want to, whatever vernacular you give it. It's really cool to be able to do that, and it can certainly take an airplane and make it substantially more aggressive. So that was the reason for that video. That was one that I've seen quite a bit. And by the way, you could extend that to crow and spoilerons and all that other stuff too. But one of the lessons I've learned making mixed videos, it doesn't matter what mixed video I make, somebody will always ask a follow-on question to mixed videos. So, every now and then I'll just sprinkle one out there. That's what that was. And then, of course, the PilotJam. So here we are. So Matthew Allen says, are you setting up a helicopter? I've set up a bunch of helicopters. We're going to talk about it tonight. So anyway, that's it for the week in review. And I figure maybe now we can get into a little bit of content. And like I said, I do have some content for you guys, oddly enough. Okay, here we go. So this follows right into Matthew's question. Are we setting up a helicopter? So real quick on the Nexus, here's the news. Okay, over the break, I've added 3 helicopters. I added a Competition 420, an SAB Raw Comp 420. That's new. I added an OMP M4 Max. That one's new. And I ordered and built a Raw 700. That one's new. So the 700, now before you guys think, man, this guy's gone off the deep end with with heli parts. I just want to be clear that the Raw 700 was kind of a swap out. It was an airframe swap out. So I sold the Tron 7 and replaced it with a Raw 700. And the reason I did that was because I've been wanting a Raw 700 for such a long time. And during the 4th of July sale, they had a good sale. So I took advantage of it. And then another one, the Raw 420, that one also went on sale, and it was aggressive. I mean, it wasn't just the helicopter, it was the parts that went with it. So I saved quite a bit of money doing it, and I knew that one was on my list, so I figured, what the heck, I just grabbed it. So that explains those two. And then the OMP M4 Max, that's another one that I wanted to follow on based on my OMP M4 crash-proof setup. And because I wanted to help Fred out, Fred's going to now take that OMP M4, and I wanted to backfill that with another helicopter in the OMP 400 series, so I got the M4 Max. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you guys all of this is because now I've built on my own. Now keep in mind, we did the Raw 500 first. That one I did with a lot of help from Rob. And then the Buddy 380, that's another helicopter that I did with a lot of help from Rob, because we did the video on that one. That's when we produced the video. So I did the Buddy 380, and that's where the video series is, by the way. So if you're looking at the Nexus setup videos, the Buddy 380 is the victim in those videos. That's the demonstrator. And then after that, I went and did 3 on my own. So they were Hobby Wing and ZTW ESCs, but basic PWM ESCs, so RPM and telemetry setups, the full Nexus setup, the RP3-H setup. And I got to tell you guys, I followed along my own videos, the videos that I made with Rob, and they were good. They were good guides. They were really helpful. And then as a result, if you go look at those videos now, I want to give you guys a little bit of a clue that in using those videos, while I use them, I also time indexed them. So if you're doing a Nexus setup, don't forget to check the time index, because you can skip around to whatever it is you need to understand, if that makes sense. Okay, so the geometry video and the motor setup video, those are time indexed. And they are the ones, I'm just telling you, they're the ones that you'll spend the most time in if you start using Nexus. They are, I consider them to be really good reference videos and guidance videos for Nexus setups. So feel free to use them and share with your friends, of course. But they're pretty good. I use those to set up the last 3, the M4 Max, the Raw 420 Comp, and the Raw 700. Oh, by the way, I also converted the Kraken. The Kraken is now converted to Nexus, and that means the only helicopter that I have left that still has an icon is the Tron 5.5, and that helicopter is actually on the chopping block to be sold. In the Discord, if you're interested, I'm going to try and sell it as a bind and fly first, and if that doesn't work, then I'm going to part it out. So check out the for sale channel in the Discord if you're interested in the Tron 5.5. All I can tell you guys on the Tron 5.5, it's a pretty good price. Not super spectacular price, but it's a good price. And that model has never been crashed, never even seen a hard landing. It's never been repaired. It is in perfect condition. So if you're in the market for a Tron 5.5, check that one out. It's bind and fly. That'll have an icon and a Radiomaster R161. And an X-Nova 4025, I think 1100 kV. I think it's 1100 kV, and a Hobbywing 120 amp 6S ESC. Perfectly good helicopter to fly. So that's it on the helicopter updates. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea. And what's next, just so you know, I'll cover this in more detail on coming up, but we're finally going to do some flying and get a flight video. So hopefully tomorrow, if the weather holds, we plan on going to the field. Fred should be there. Dave should be there. I'll be there. And we're going to film. We're going to film some helicopter flying. Dave will fly his helis. I'll bring out some of the new stuff I've got, and we'll get some videos put together for you guys so you can see what's going on there. And then, you know, we'll have some airplanes too. I'm sure we'll do a little goofing off there. So hopefully we'll do a little bit of a day at the field video for you guys. Been a while since we've done one of those, so we'll try and get one of those knocked out. All right, so that's it on the heli updates. I think Nexus, one other thing I did want to say about the Nexus. We do have a lot of people coming into the Discord and asking questions. In the spirit of full disclosure, I'm doing my best to learn, but it as it is with helicopters, you know, one guy might have problem X, and next guy might have problem Y. I might have problem Z. So I don't necessarily know enough about the platform to be able to say, oh, if you got problem X, here's what you do. It's a little different on Edge. You know, I've pretty much got Edge wired to ground. But on the helicopters, it's on Nexus. It's a little bit different. I shouldn't say Nexus. Really, it's Rotor Flight. But in Rotor Flight, I'm not experienced enough to be able to pluck out and give you hard answers. So we do our best, you know, based on our understanding. I know Rob's in there chipping away at questions as well. So we'll do our best. But, you know, part of this comes to you guys too. You know, do your part. Get out there and you know, do the setups and do your work. And if you find an issue, report it. If you find something that you've solved, share. That's always helpful to get in there and share that. So always good. But it's kind of this evolving tech, right? We're all, you know, kind of learning it still is the best way I can put that. All right, that's it on the helicopter and heli updates. I've got a really neat thing to show you guys now. And I just realized I didn't tell you about this, but this was a Dave thing. So here's what I'm going to do. We are going to switch over to the workspace. And when I switch to the workspace, hopefully you guys will see a little spreadsheet. How about that? It's almost like I've done this before. Okay. Now, just so you're aware, this is going to be a production video. I'm going to give you guys a summary version because I thought it was really kind of cool what happened here. So let me kind of map the situation out. And I'm gonna while you look at the spreadsheet, I'm gonna bring some stuff into view for you. This was a thing. Dave sent me a little image, and he goes, "Hey man, what do you think of this? Check this out." And he shows me this video where he got some batteries, and Dave being Dave, he weighs them, he checks them out, and he notices little details. I don't know that I would have picked it out, to be honest with you, but Dave did. So here's what he did. Now, you know, he's got that little Futura 64 millimeter jet, right? So he went out, he wanted to get batteries similar to the ones that I have so that we can fly them together, and he's going to have the same amount of time. What led him to get the 3000? I'm not sure, but he did. And he also got a 2650, which is what I fly in my Futura. I fly it's a Nanotech, just like this one actually. So here's what he does. Dave goes and gets these batteries, and you know, for like I said, it's just Dave being Dave. So this is a 2650 4-cell. They're both 4 cells, and they are 30. This one is a 30 to 60C, and this one is also a 30 to 60C. So a 2650 and a 3000. Okay, check this out. We'll tear the scale. Maybe I'll tear the scale. There it goes. There it goes. So the the scale is taired. Now I'm going to set the 2650 on there, and we're going to make sure it's all on. There's no extra parts on here, no Velcro, no nothing. This way it comes from the factory. So 295 grams, all right, 295 grams for the 2.6. And the 300, 299 grams. So about 4 grams difference. And I'll tell you, when I've weighed them before in other, I don't know, there you go, 298. They've been like the same. So there's 297. And let's try this one more time. Okay. Why is it? It's moving right when I go to put it on there. There's 0. Well, anyway, it's within a gram. So 297. So super, super close on the weight for these two. Okay. So that was the first thing. Dave's like, wait a minute. If I've got a battery that is a 3000, why does it weigh the same as a 2.65? What's up with that? But that's not the end of it. Wait till you see this. This is going to blow you away. This is going to blow you away. It blew me away. I thought there's got to be a mistake here. So I have my micrometer. We'll open that up, and I'm going to just take the 3000, okay? And we'll measure this one. So 24 mils on the 3000. Here's the 2.6 and 25 mils. So a millimeter fatter, right? Taller. Let's do the height. So this, again, this is the 2650, and height-wise, we're at about 43 3/4. Okay, 43 3/4, and on this one, we are slightly less. All right, and then check this out on the length. So on the length, we're at 137 on the 3000, and 138 on the 2650. So this one is slightly larger. So we've got a 3000 and a 2650. The 3000, and they weigh the same. No, very close. And the 2650 is slightly larger. Now here's where it gets interesting, because I thought, weight-wise, they have the same C rating, approximately the same size and weight. This one's technically a touch smaller. And you'd think, if this one's a little bit smaller, you'd think, how is the watt-hour density higher, right? There's got to be something going on here. So I said, Dave, we got to do a video on this. So I went and did today. I did some testing, and let me bring up the workspace so you guys can see what's going on here. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this spreadsheet so you guys can get a good look here. So what I did, of course, I had to test this, right? So I got out my BD250, my SkyRC BD250, and I'll show you some images in a minute. I'll get some images out and let you see that I'll be using in the production video. And I did some comparisons. So R1 means round 1, R2 means round 2. So I did a round 2. I started with the batteries in a charged state with a peak at 4.2 and a discharge. We did the discharge down to 3.8, okay? So those are the numbers. The 2650 on the discharge down to 3.8. Oh, and I use 4 amps. I know some of you guys are going to be like, wait a minute, they're 30C times 2.6. That's, at least 45 amps. I know, I get it, but they're Dave's batteries and I didn't want to punish them. So I did this, I did them at 4 amps. And I also figured I would avoid the question of sag that way. And really I was just looking for a repeatable procedure just to get some measures. Okay. That was the objective. So I did the first battery, the 2650, it discharged at 1271 milliamp hours, and the 3000 1708. I didn't think that was possible. So that means the 3000 had a 34% higher capacity than the 2650. And then I did the charge. So and I charged them using the iCharger X6, and that, I just want to show you guys so you know I'm not fooling around with this. I'm not fooling around. I did that with I calibrated it with the Fluke 87 ahead of time just to make sure that charger was accurate, and it is dead nuts accurate. I mean, I put a 6L on there with load, and I did the calibration with my Fluke, and it is dead nuts on. It's one of the most accurate chargers I've ever seen. So I feel very good about these numbers on the charge side. There is no way to calibrate the discharger, but it is a mathematical function because we're not using a balance lead on that one. So with that said, the delta, by the way, R1 discharge to charge. So there's about a 2% gap on the 2650 and about a 3.5% gap on the 3000 between the discharge and charge. So in other words, it took a little bit more than it let out. That's what I'm saying. Not much, 3%. It's academic. Then I did a round 2, same test, and check out the results. 1291 compared to 1271. That's pretty close. And then we got 1727 compared to 1708. So the difference, 34%. And the same thing on the charge value. And here's the gap again on the discharge versus charge. So on the average, on the average discharge over the 2 tests, we had a 34% difference. And on the average charge value through the 2 tests, we had a 34% difference. So that to me is a repeatable outcome. Now, we could do this test 3 or 4 more times, but I expect I would get similar results. Keep in mind, they're brand new batteries. Okay, so the average difference between the discharge and charge, about 2.5 on the 2650 and about 2.6 on the 3000. So very, very close. Now let's get into the summary on what happened. I want to show you on this section right here. What I saw was a 34% higher discharge MAH on the 3000. So about 34% improvement, and about a 34% improvement on the charge MAH. So I was able to put in 34% more on the 3000 than I was on the 2650. The price difference between the two is 30%. So you get about a 4% savings if you buy the 3000. And so why not? I mean, you know, it costs, you know, $6 more, but the percentage uptick in cost is only 30%. Here's the interesting one to me. The rated difference, only 13%. 13%. One other thing I want to show you up in the top, because I put it in at the very end. I wanted to show you this little column too, because this was an interesting one to me. The range that I use is 4.2 to 3.8. So that's a 0.4 volt difference. If you divide out the discharge, the discharge per tenth of a volt, you get, so I took 1281 on average, divided that by 4 for 4/10 of a volt, and that shows me I'm getting 320 milliamp hours per tenth of a volt on the 2650, but I'm getting 429 milliamp hours per tenth of a volt on the 3000. So not only, that's where the 34% comes from. The difference comes in the performance of the chemical mix in these batteries. So what the hell? I mean, what the hell? They should be the same batteries. Bottom line, the 3000 is a much higher performing battery. It performs 34% better over the cycle. And the rated difference, this is the other big number to me, the rated difference was only 13.2%. So a 2650 to a 3000, that's only a 13% improvement. It's not that much, but the performance showed us 34%. So here are the pictures from the Hobby King website if you want to get those batteries. The summary is really simple to me. Same weight, large size, lower watt hour. So they're the same weight. The larger size has a lower watt hour. The 2650 has less watt hours than the 3000. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Number 2, there's a 13% difference in the rated capacity versus a 35% difference in the performance capacity. Again, kind of crazy. Like I don't know why, but there is a significant difference. So for people who say, well, I don't get the right flight time, or this flight time seems kind of weak, or I use this kind of battery and it's way better, all I can say is, yeah, it certainly seems possible at this point because we're seeing a huge performance difference in the same damn brand of battery. So yeah, that's kind of weird. I never would have expected that. Now I kind of want to run tests on all my batteries. My OCD is kicking in. I'm like, I'm gonna have to start measuring every damn thing now. It's crazy. The last one, 27% higher cost for a 35% higher performance is the bottom line. So you pay a little bit extra, but you get quite a bit more out of the performance, if that makes sense. So anyway, I just wanted to share, this will be a production video, and I don't know why. I just don't know why. I can't answer. I don't know. If you're a chemist, I don't want to hear any sea lawyers either. But if you're a chemist and you know answers about why this might be that much different on the same brand with the same C rating from the same manufacturer, I'd love to hear an honest explanation on this. It is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Okay, so that's it on the battery thing. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting outcome. Brand new batteries, same manufacturer. And by the way, I did check the balance. They were balanced. I mean, dead nuts on the numbers. They were dead nuts on the numbers. So interesting little test today. All right, RC3D. RC3D. If you guys haven't been here before, and most of you have, RC3D is where I spend a little time showing you some 3D prints that I make in the hobby to kind of help out and help along the way. So the first one I want to show you is these. And obviously those aren't 3D prints, so don't get animated on me. But if you fly helicopters, you know what these are. These are swash plate levelers. And most manufacturers will sell, they don't include them in the kit, which is really super annoying. I think they should just jack the price of the kit by $5 and include a quality leveler, you know, but they sell them for $15 instead. So it's a profit center. To me, it's one of the big gripes in the heli space. Stop nickeling and diming us. You're already charging a pretty good price for these kits. Just stick a leveler in it, a quality leveler. It should just be part of the setup kit. But you need these when you need something to level your swash. These are obviously on the higher end because they're machined. They're going to be fairly precise. And in this case, you know, these cases, they're designed for the helicopters. Okay. So that's a manufacturer part, but let me show you what I did. The one on the left, that is for the M4 Max. And this one, the red one, is for the raw 420. Now, when I ordered the kit, I forgot to order the leveler on both cases. So I went out and printed them. So 3D printing, that's a raw 420 leveler. And this one is a leveler for an M4 Max. And it will work, I'm sure it'll work on an M4 as well. So on this one, it goes on from the top. You basically slide it down. It sits on top of the swash plate like that. And you just look for the knuckle to touch the edge right here. The one thing I'll tell you guys, if you print these, I've done some experimenting. And what I would say is, make sure you use a really hard filament at 100% infill. So put 100% infill density in there. Make sure the plate's cool before you pop them off because you don't want to warp this. This needs to be straight. And it'd be a really good idea to test it out some way if you can. Like if you have the tools to be able to maybe put a shaft through there, put a right angle measurement, a flat plane. If you can do that, it'd be a good idea. So I don't have the ability to do that. So I just kind of eyeball it and do the best I can. But I can tell you if it is off, it's been very little because on this one, I took my M4 level and put it, swash leveler on and put it on and they were the same. So I got the same readings on that one. And then here's one for the raw. This one's a little different. It slides underneath the swash plate. So this one, the manufacturer version also slides underneath the swash plate, as does the disc. So that one slides underneath. And there you go. Now, I guess what I would say is I'd recommend the metal version if you can get it. If it's within your budget, do the metal version because that will definitely be the most accurate. There's just no two ways around it. But in a pinch, I can tell you that I used this one on my raw 420, and when I made in the raw 420, no problem. It was no problem. The swash was perfect. So just a neat little thing you can do with swash plate leveling on helicopters. I thought I would share that. If you're not aware, you have to go out and Google around and look for the ones that you like the best. Oh, and here's another one. This was for the Kraken. This is the Kraken 580. I did not have a metal leveler for the Kraken, so I printed this one. And again, 100% infill, and don't try and remove it from the plate until it's all cooled down. Let it cool before you do anything. All right, so little swash plate leveler for a Kraken 580, and I think it'll work on a raw 580 as well. How about that? Okay, and here's another one. This is another one that I did. I don't remember what airframe that was for, but that's just another 3D printed swash plate leveler. Just neat little tools. RC3D. This stuff really helps in a pinch, man. I'll tell you right now, if you're building a helicopter and you don't have a swash plate leveler because you forgot it, it can be really annoying. So it's nice to be able to do stuff like that. So if you're not aware, you can go out and get swash plate levelers out there on the net. They're free. It didn't cost me anything. Okay. on the same note, I want to talk a little bit about this guy. Obviously, that's not 3D printed, but that is. And I also picked up another little pro tip for you. If you color code your class parts the same color filament like this, that's an M4 swash plate leveler, that's a raw 420, but these go on the blade grips. And what these allow you to do is, instead of having your entire blade on your helicopter while you're trying to level, you can use your leveler like this. So you basically take one of these guys, same deal, print it 100% infill density, make it as rigid as you can, and then put it in your grip, make sure it's straight, and then you can put your leveler gauge on there just like that. And that way it's a little more convenient than having those main rotor blades on, especially if you're going to rotate and check both blades, simultaneously. And that's why I also print two. So when I'm setting up, I put both of these in, screw them down, nice and snug. I don't want them moving. And then I pop my gauge on there. And as long as you print these very rigid, they're going to give you a pretty good outcome. So I did this in color code. So this is basically like a 420 class setup. So when I'm looking through my tools, that's my 420 stuff. And then when I'm looking for, say, something in a 5 series, that would be in this color scheme. And then if I'm looking for something in a 7 series, it'd be that color scheme. And they have these grips for all different sizes. So they have all the different, this is a 700 size, the 400 size, and the 500 size. So just a little pro tip, color code your parts. And that way, this one's not color coded because I don't know why I didn't color. I know why, because it's a brand new filament and I wanted to try it out. But for the 5 series for production, I will print this one in black. And that way I have my 5 tool kit together. I'll put them in a little baggie, and anytime I need to work on a 5 series, I'll have them. And then for my 7s, any swash plate levelers I make for a 7 series, I will go ahead and set up in a patchy, clear, translucent color as well. So that's RC3D for tonight on the parts. And then the next thing I wanted to show you, because we're going to get into it next, that's another 3D part that I use all the time. That's my RCVR 1 model. That's available in the Etsy store. Links in the description if you'd like to get one for yourself. So yeah, Hobie says first world problems. That's right. That's right. You color code, man, because OCD kicks in. And if you don't color code stuff, then it's problematic. Right? It's just not good. You guys wouldn't even believe how many times I've printed different colors for these models that I put on the Etsy store and tried different color controls in Airplane to make sure that I like the way the color scheme looks. You wouldn't believe it if I told you. You just wouldn't believe it. Let's see. David says, can you test on the heli once you level the swash, rotate the leveler 100? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very good point, David. Yes. To check level, yeah, what he's saying is after you get it level, just spin this thing. And yeah, that's exactly what I do. And that's how I get an idea on whether or not the part is perfect as well. So yeah, or if you can, compare it to something like this. But once you buy this, then you already have it. However, now I have this for any 4 series. So any shaft diameter that fits there, that generally will work. I also like the discs too, rather than like these things. These work for a specific helicopter because it's like the distance is always a little bit different from frame to frame, but the circles, they'll kind of accommodate lots of different things. So if you have one knuckle that's here and one that's there, the circle accommodates both of those. So I do like that style, I think, a little bit better, but yeah, you can absolutely rotate just to get an idea if you're level all the way around. Anyway, back to RCVR 1 there. Just a reminder, these are on the Etsy store. And people have been snapping these things up. So if you're not familiar with it, it's just a little setup model. And we're going to use this to navigate into the next section, which is the EdgeTX mixer. Hobie says, I like my flaps in white. I'm sure we can hook you up with some parts, Hobie. That shouldn't be a problem. All right, so here we go. EdgeTX mixer. I made this video. I'm not going to make a video because it's too short of a subject, but I wanted to do like a proof of concept. I wanted to do a proof of concept for you guys because I see this is another question. Like in one of the videos I did, somebody said, oh, well, if you do that in the inputs, can you delete the mix line? No, you can't. You can't delete the mix line. The mix line is important because without the mixer, you're not telling your radio what to do. So the mixer is super important. There we go. I'm just trying to get it to look decent for you guys. There we go. Okay. So all I've got here is my little RCVR 1 test model, and I'm going to just move my ailerons. You see I have to get my pointer. Don't judge me. Shut up, Robert. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm going to move my stick to the right. You see the right aileron goes up, the left goes down. That's correct. I'm going to move my elevator back. You can see the elevator goes up. That's correct. Now it goes down. That's correct. I'm pushing forward. It goes down. And here's my rudder. I go right and it goes left. Okay, that's typical, right? It's typical. That's a typical setup. Okay, now let me show you what I mean about the mixers and why you have to have the mixers. The mixers are the mix. I shouldn't say the mixers. The mix lines in the mixes tab. That's what actually attaches the thing, the line. In my case, I'm using an input. You could easily use a stick here, and I'll show you that. I'll show you that after I delete it. But so channel 1 right now is an aileron. So right now you see both the ailerons moving. Okay. Now I'm just going to delete this mix line. I'm just going to click on it and delete it. Does anybody know what's going to happen now? Anybody want to say what's going to happen in the chat? I know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is when I move the aileron, I'm going to move the stick and only one of them is moving. And it's the one that is on channel 6. I can see it. It's right here. Channel 6 is the only one that's moving. That one stopped moving, and that's the one that's on channel 1. So that's the proof that the input or the definition that you use right here, whatever that is. In my case, I use inputs, right? Those are inputs. And by the way, you see that little icon right here? The secret is the iconography on Edge is so important. You see that icon right there? You see how that matches that icon right there? That tells me that that is an input, and it matches the input icon on the inputs tab. Okay. So now if I go back, I told you I would show you that you could do a stick as well. I'm going to also show you why the iconography matters so much. All right. I'm going to add that line back in. I'm going to hit the plus and I'm going to choose channel 1. I think my brightness is a little too bright. So I'm going to choose channel 1. There's channel 1. And instead of source being aileron, which by the way, it works now. I'm just going to show you right now that works again. So if I move my stick, you see how it's moving again? Cool, right? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is change the source from an input. I'm going to select a stick. You see that little stick icon right there? And I'm going to select my aileron stick right here. So there's my aileron stick. Now it's going to work again because I connected it to my stick. All right. It's not using the input anymore. It's using the stick. But here's the problem. If I go on this side now and I go from low rates to high rates, and right now I've got it set at 40, I'm going to make that really low. I'm going to make it really low. We're going to do something really, really low here. Barely moving, 10%. And then I'm going to make the high rates. We'll make those, I don't know, we'll make those 40% where I started before. There we go. Okay. So now when I move, you can see how little this one is moving and how much that's moving. It's because that one is not using an input, which means it's not governed by an input. It's not governed by an input. It's governed by the stick. So if I can move the stick all this way, then the aileron moves all that way. It doesn't care what the input says. Now, if I go back to the mixer, you can see that this icon looks like a stick. That's not an input. That's a stick. Very important stuff. You guys cannot forget to look at the icons. Icons on Edge really do mean something, and they've done a very good job. Once you kind of learn the ropes a little bit, they do a really good job giving you an idea of what it is you're looking at just a glance. I can look at that right now and say that's wrong because in my mixer, I don't use the stick. I use an input. So if I saw that on someone's radio, the first thing I would do is change it. I'd say, hey, let's change that and let's use an input instead. I'm going to click on that little input icon right there to filter, and then I'll select aileron. And now when I do that, you'll see that I'm back to being filtered. My motion is now governed by the inputs. Okay. Make sense? All right. Now, if I flip it on high, they both go up to the high rate and they're both working the same way. Again, governed by the input. Where I set the input to be high at 40%, that's why you see the limit there. Even though the mixer says 100, we're limited to 40 because we're limited before we ever even get into the mixer. The input will only allow up to 40% on the mixer. Sorry, let me restate that. The inputs will only send or allow 40% to go into the mixer. Okay. So even though the weight here is 100, the reason it's limited is because I limited it right here in my input, okay? If I switch down to low rates, 10%, now we go back to the mixer and hit the monitor. When I move this, you'll see I can only go to 10%, okay? That's the very nature of the relationship between inputs and mixers. And I wanted, or mix lines, and I wanted to show you that because I really wanted to make the connection between the channel on the radio, which is right here, and the thing on your radio, which is defined right here. It's super important to understand that because in EdgeTX, we don't have concepts like what channel are flaps. We don't care. It doesn't matter. I can put flaps. If I have a receiver with 16 pins on it, right there, 16, I can put my flaps right there. I can call them flaps. I can say these are flaps, and their control is my right slider. And from that point on, channel 16, pin 16 is now controlled by my right slider. And if I click on the monitor and hit page right, you can see that output is going out based on my slider right there. All right, so it's the mixer. These channel numbers are very important because they are the thing that connects this source to your PWM or your S-Bus channel in your radio stream. Make sense? I hope that makes sense, because if you don't understand that, this whole radio is going to be very problematic. I'm just telling you, it's going to be hard to understand if you don't get that part. Okay. And then just to, for clarity, so people don't think I forgot, the outputs is the last thing that the radio does to a signal before it ships it off to your model. Okay. So in outputs, you can do things like govern your endpoints. You can invert your signal. You can do all kinds of things in your outputs tab. You can set your sub trim. You can set extended limits if you want to. So all kinds of things you can do in outputs, but just be aware that that is the last operation you have technically that is in the user control before the command is shipped off to the receiver on the model. All right. I hope that makes sense. I wanted to do that because I'm telling you guys, if you don't understand that, EdgeTX is going to remain a mystery for you. It's going to be quite challenging, Okay. Next up, I wanted to show this to you guys as well. This is one of those things that's just super, super annoying. Rob talked me into this. It's Rob's fault, but it's not a cheap servo tester. But the reason I got it was because some of the programming features that are available. And if you give me a minute, I will hook up a power supply and I'll give you a quick look at it. But this is called the HFP30. It's by High-Tech, and I want to tell you guys why something like this matters, especially if you have helicopters. So Dave, I told you guys, Dave bought the Tron, and he went to eBay and got himself a Rotor servo, a KST Rotor servo. And when he got that servo, he bought it, put it on a servo tester, and said it doesn't work. And then he called me and told me about it. He goes, hey, it doesn't work. And I said, wait a minute, that's a Rotor servo, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, hold on just a minute. They use what's called narrowband. So if you look at this, what did I do with my pointer? It's hiding. My pointer is hiding. There it is. Okay. In the setup on this HFP30, you can see that there's this option called gyro mode. When that's on, it sets the midpoint to 760. So it basically sets up a narrowband output on the servo output right here. So now when you go to test, you go into manual mode, and in manual mode, you can control the servo output right here. There are some other things you can do too, like you can do auto, you can do a sweep, you can set endpoints. This also acts as a programmer, so there's a switch right here for test and program. So if you want to use it as a programmer for your servos, it'll do D, 5, 7, and B servos. And you can program things like the soft start, the center, the center point, all of that stuff. So the HFP30, they're not cheap. I'm just telling you guys, they're not cheap. But I can tell you also that had I not had this, Dave probably would have sent his servo back, and maybe even paid more for one. So if you're into helicopters at all, this is kind of a nice little tool to be able to have, because you can switch back and forth between standard mode and narrowband mode. So if I turn gyro mode off, you can see my midpoint goes back to 1500. And then when I go back into the testing, where we have that full sweep width all the way, down to 900 and all the way up to 2112 or whatever it is. Yeah, 2100. So 1500 would be the midpoint on a standard servo, just about like that. And also obviously for things like servo setup on a fixed wing, you can use this to center your servos, or dial in differential, or any of the other stuff that you might want to use one of these for. So I just thought I'd show it to you. Nice little tool, especially if you're a heli person and you want to test heli servos. And by the way, I also did a little reading. You can actually damage narrowband servos if you plug them in to a standard servo driver. Just keep that in mind. You can damage them. They can be damaged. So if you don't have a 760 US servo driver, don't plug it in unless you connect it to your fly barless, and tell your fly barless that it's a narrowband servo. Okay? Okay. See, this is where all the geek stuff happens, right? It all happens here, man. This is what it's all about. All right, what's up next? What did I miss? Needed sunglasses for the brightness. Oh yeah, we're on Discord. Yeah, the STL. Yeah, the STL for RCVR1 is on Discord. And also, I just want to let you guys know that on the Etsy store, there's a new and improved version. So new and improved model on the Etsy store if you want it. I made some changes. I made some updates. It's nicer. Leave it at that. Let's see. Need sunglasses for the brightness. Sorry, Shane. I'll do better. That's really what that really is. That's Freddie's personality shining through. That's what you're seeing there. Let's see. Hans says he smiles and laughs. Okay, David, look at pinned. We're talking about where the STL is. Okay. My firmware is foobar until I can get up with first layer. First layer. Okay. Firmware is foobar until I can get up with first layer. Well, get on Discord. I'm sure we can help you out. Inputs, master, mixer, slave. Different frequency. Okay. I don't think I missed any questions I need to address, so that lets me move on to the next segment, which is Q&A. I told you guys it was the night tonight. We had content. I told you we were going to have content. All right, Q&A. Let's get into it. And the Q&A is going to be long. I got about 84 questions, so pour yourself a drink. I'm just kidding. There's not 84 questions. It's just like 8, but they're long. That's what she said. Okay, let's see. Blackboard. That's where we're going. Blackboard. All right. Let's see. Guitar Shack. He says, hey, thanks for the video. This is Express LRS arming. Doesn't matter. Thanks for the video. Had exactly the same problem with gyro mode. Eventually just used channel 6. So what I'm going to say to you guys, and I've said this so many times before, I've looked into it. I've worked on it. I've played around with it. I've tested it. I've flown stuff on it. And all I'm going to say is when it comes to running fixed wing on Express LRS, all I can say is just put it on 333 and 16 divided by 2 and be happy. Because that basically just gives you 16 proportional channels. 16 proportional channels. You can do whatever you want with them. Be aware of the arming thing. You should read up on what it means. I've covered it ad infinitum, ad nauseum. I'm not going to cover it again tonight, but I'm just telling you guys, don't worry about it. If you use Express LRS and you're stuck with channel 5 and you can't remap it, and you can't find another way to use it, don't worry about it. Just do it. 16 divided by 2, 333 hertz. 16 proportional channels. Set your model up. Go fly. Don't worry about it. All right. Trust me on that one. Okay, next up. Oh, let's see. I'm on the wrong window. Try to toggle the next one. Here we go. Mr. Classy Duck says, why can't the SD card be like 64 gigs? Because it can't. It can't. The radio can't see 64 gigs. You know what's funny to me is way back in the days of Windows 3.1 and XP and all of that stuff, there were limits on the size of the hard drive based on how much memory the system could page to allocate for what was called the FAT, or the file allocation table. So at the end of the day, what kills me about a question like this is that if you let me just try and put this in very generic terms, as simple as I can. We'll bring up the camera. I need the camera for this example. Let me see. I need something here to illustrate my point. Okay, I have it. If this were the contents of your SD card, everything. And I'm talking a full on, just like this. This is my production radio. I've got logs. I've got model images. I've got, I don't even know how many friggin' models on this thing. I've got tons of stuff on this thing. I don't know, 60, 70 models on it, log files, images for everything. I don't erase anything. I don't ever clean up after it. So if that screw represents all the data on your SD card, then a 64 gig card would be the equivalent of one of those freight trains that runs for 1.5 miles. You know, you're sitting at the crossing guard for 20 minutes. That would be the amount of space available for this much content. So unless, with one exception, there's only one exception to this, and that's if you put a lot of music on your radio. So if you put those MP3 files or WAV files so you can listen to music while you're flying, then that's different. That's different. MP3 files will eat up some space. That's granted. But if you're not doing that, then a 64 gig card would be like all the content's 64 gig card and shipping that screw with a freight train. You don't need that much space, not even close. All right. You can walk around with this in your hand and you'll be fine. So what I'm trying to tell you is a 2 gig card, 4 gig card, 8 gig card, 32 gig card, 16 gig card, all plenty big enough, all more than you need. All right. You don't need a damn 64 gig card for these radios. So the reason that I keep talking about it is people do things like they'll stick a 64 gig card and go, why does my radio work? Because the radio can't address it. You can't put a 60, you have to partition it. Now, there may have been some changes there. You know, I thought I saw somebody, maybe one of the developers say mine read a 64 gig card. I don't know. But what I do know to be 100% fact is you don't need it, man. You don't need it unless you're putting music on your radio. A 16 gig card is plenty big enough. A 32 gig card is just ridiculously insane. So stop worrying about the damn 64 gig cards. You don't need them, man. It's not necessary. It just, it comes up so often. It's driving me to distraction. You don't need them. 32 gigs. That's the biggest you ever need. 16 be more than enough. All right. This is a question I actually like. Yodcalf, he says, what's your opinion on the 70-inch Extreme Flight versus the 63-inch Skywing? Is it worth the extra 3 inches? I'm waiting for Freddie to chime in. Yeah. So I'm surprised I beat Fred to the punch on that. But is it worth the extra 3 inches? I would say that it depends on your definition of worth. I would say that they both fly quite well. I like the scheme on the 70-inch Extreme Flight better, although the scheme on the 73-inch Skywing is very nice. But I like the orange, white, and blue better. I like it. I'm a Gator. What do you expect? I went to Florida. So orange, white, and blue, better scheme in my opinion. But they're both good airplanes. In terms of worth the extra 3 inches, I really, I gotta be honest. I don't know how you can tell the difference between a 67-inch and the 74-inch. I don't know. They both fly good. So, the good news is that we're in this kind of, I guess the way I would have to answer this question is if you think you can outfly it, then you wouldn't be asking me this question. So what that means to me is you probably can't outfly the plane. So either one is going to be fine. Both the planes are going to probably outperform you. So that's it. All right. Okay. So both good airplanes. The good news is we're in a great spot. Skywing and Extreme Flight, both making good products. All right, let's see. Gianni says, nice video of the model you have to test from. Where you have it? I just wanted to give myself... This video is sponsored by RC Video Reviews Etsy store. No sponsor on this one. So if you want to help the channel, go buy a model. Go buy a setup model. Keep in mind, no hardware is included, but I provide links in the description or the instructions for the model on the website and where you can get the hardware on Amazon. So go get a model. That's where I have it. It's on Etsy. And... if you're in Discord, I also have them in Discord. So if you want to get on Discord, you can download the RCVR version 1, RCVR 1 version 1 on the Discord. All right? Okay. That's where I have it. And I'm out of wood ones right now. A lot of people keep asking me about wood. My laser's down for a spare part right now. When it comes in, I'll get it fixed. I'll cut some more wood ones. But right now, all I have are 3D printed versions. All right. This is one of my favorite comments of the week. Don Joe, he wrote this. He said, hey, I really enjoy your videos. I even watch planes I'm not interested in just because I enjoy your videos. See, Fred? That's what I'm talking about, Fred. Even though we're talking about airplanes he doesn't care about, he still hangs in there and watches because he likes the content, man. That's a good follow. That's a good subscriber, right? He's a good fan of the channel. That's what I'm talking about. My favorite comment of the week. Gave that one a heart. Nice job. All right. My Tube says, how can I easily use T5, T6? Oh, I wanted to show you guys this one. So he says, I want to use T5, T6 trim switches on channel 5 and 6. So you remember we had the conversation about the inputs and the mixers, right? That's the wrong one. I wanted this one. So I'm going to bring up my Scratch model and I want to show you guys something really cool if you didn't know about it. So I'm just going to make sure that we all know about it. And I'm going to skip all that stuff. Now, the question was, how do I use trims 5 and 6 on trims 5 and 6 on channels 5 and 6 in the radio? Now, you cannot assign a trim switch to a mixer. That doesn't work. So here's the way you do it. What I told him is you have to first assign a control to the mixer, and then you can attach a trim to it. So let's do an example here. I'm not sure if you can use any control or if it's just sticks. We'll find out. We'll test. So I'm going to go into the inputs, and I'm going to make an input. And just out of for the heck of it, I'm going to choose 5. And for the source, I'm going to try, you know what? I'll try the right slider. I'm going to try the, right slider. There we go. And I'm going to go down here into setup and I'm going to apply trim number 6. Okay. And then the next thing I want to do is make sure in my flight modes, I have trim 6 turned on, and I do. All right. I see that's a little bright. There we go. So trim 6 is turned on. So what that means is that I should now, based on this input that I just created right here, input number 5, I'm going to name it. We'll edit this and we'll name this right slider. Okay. So now we know. And so right slider, and I assign trim number 6 to that slider. Okay. So now if we go back here, I should be able to put this right here, my right slider in the middle position right here. And I want to see if I push trim up, what happens? Nothing. Nothing's happening there. So I trim up, trim down, nothing happens. Okay, let's try something different. I'm going to go into the mixer, and so what I think is that slider indicator is directly connected, like not to the input, just to the physical switch itself. That's what I believe we just saw. Okay, so now I'm going to come into the mixer, and I'm going to add a channel 5, and I'm going to use my input right slider right there. Okay. And when I back out, you guys can already see what's going to happen, can't you? If you're eagle-eyed, you already caught it. You can see right there, there's 8% right there on channel 5, 8%. Now, if I bring T6 down, see how it's going down? So there you go. That's how you assign T5 or T6 to channel 5 or channel 6 on the radio. But keep in mind, I don't believe, let's just check, just for argument's sake. I'm just going to check for the source to make sure that there isn't a trim switch alone. Is there? There is. Look at that. It's right there. How about that? So there you go. I stand corrected. You can actually assign a trim switch to a channel. There it is right there. Now, why exactly you'd want to do that, I'm not sure. Maybe for like an auto launch feature or something, but there you go. You can actually assign a trim switch right there to a channel. I'll be damned. I learned something. So there you go. Pretty cool. Yeah. Trim number 6 assigned to channel 5. Neat. There you go. All right. I guess you probably could do it without even doing an input. Can you? Yeah, because that's the source. It's not even, yeah, so you don't even need the input. You can actually just put the switch on the channel. Wow, super cool. I learned something new. Well, good question, my tuber. You showed me something new on the radio, and that doesn't happen very often. So there you go. You can assign a trim switch to a channel directly. How about that? All right, back to the Q&A. That was cool. We learned something. All right, Joe says, I'm sorry, I know this question is way late. My question is, could you wire the S-bus cable between the receiver and the flight controller with a second leg running to a 16-channel decoder? So the question is, if you're sending S-bus out of your receiver, can you send it to a decoder and the gyro? And the answer is yes, because the Y is simply a parallel line. It won't know, like, neither device will understand that there's another device doing something. So the answer to that question is yes. And I do something similar to that where I use S-Bus out of, say, an EPW6. So I put 16 channels out the EPW6 on S-Bus, and I can still read PWM on the PWM pins on the EPW6 itself. And that definitely works. So you can do that. Okay. Let's see. Bob Watson, could you please give me directions to your Discord? Guys, every video I post has a link to Discord in the description. So if you want to join the Discord, and I highly recommend it. I know the moderators will put one in the chat, but if you'd like to get on the Discord, it's in the description of every single video I post. And I know one of the moderators will put it in the chat for me as well. So David says, I do want a way to reverse S1 and S2. Well, let's take a look. I think there's a way to do that. Let me just take a look here real quick. If we do analogs, pots. So let's try this. It's a good experiment. I've seen this question come up a couple of times. Let me bring the big camera up. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to test this question. David says, I want to know if you can reverse S1 and S2. Right there, you can see my volume. Let me zoom in so you guys can see the icon. All right, you see my volume icon right there? I always put that on S1. My S1 is my volume icon. So I'm going to twist that knob. So you can see my volume going up and down, right? So there's my volume icon. And what I'm doing, see, I'm rotating clockwise to turn the volume up, and I'm rotating counterclockwise to turn the volume down. And you can see the X, that means it's muted. All right, let's see if we can reverse that. I think if you click on the icon, if you click on System, and then go to this little hardware tab, and then scroll down to pots, and you see S1. If we click that, I believe that's invert. So if you invert that, now let's see what happens. If I move my icon all the way to the right, yep, the S1 is all the way to the right, and that turns the volume off. That is reverse of what I had before. Now if I rotate counterclockwise, you can see it's turning the volume up. That is definitely reversed S1 and S2. 100% that is reversed. Oh, can you see? You can see it on the screen too, right? Yeah. So on here, I got to zoom out a little bit. I need to zoom out so you guys can see the controls moving at the same time as the indicator, because we just covered that a minute ago with the slider, right? So here is my right slide, or my right pot is S2. So I'll rotate when I go to the right or clockwise, it goes that way. And when I go to the left, it goes that way. And on this one, when I rotate to the right, it goes left. And when I rotate to the left, it goes right. And if I go back into the hardware settings and click on pots and uninvert that, then the opposite should occur, right? Yep. So now they both go to the right when I go clockwise, and they both go to the left when I go counterclockwise. There you go. There's proof. My volume is backwards. Well, now you can change it. All right, Blackboard. All right, direction to Discord. It's in the chat. Thanks, Robert, for posting that in there. Hobie got it as well. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. All right, let's see. Michael says, do you have a video to cover? I think I really messed up and don't have an original backup for when your transmitter is brand new and just want to create a new SD card like it came from the factory. I know Radio Master has a file you can download, asking for a friend, completely hypothetical, of course. Yeah, so one of the easiest ways to get the stock SD card contents back on your radio. Now, let's be clear. There's really two versions, because the manufacturers, they can do one thing and they'll make an image and they'll put it on the SD card. But the Edge team, they do something a little different. The original, so the source you get from the EdgeTX team. So if you want the source, the original, like the raw SD card contents, you go to one of the easiest ways is go to buddy.edgetx.org and have Buddy copy the contents to your SD card and tell it to erase your SD card first. So if you do that, that's the easiest way to do it. There's another way to do it, and I will show you that as well. I have to bring up a browser real quick, and we will go to the workspace, and I will show you in the workspace. The other way to do this is to go to the GitHub, and I'm pretty sure the GitHub is in every video I post, but if not, it's github.com/EdgeTX with a capital E and capital T. Okay. But if you look at that, you'll see that you've got the SD card here, SD card sounds here. So, and if you scroll down, you can also see this stuff in a list format. So there's the SD card contents. If you click on that, it was updated 3 weeks ago. You can always download this just by clicking on the assets for your radio. So 480 by 272.zip. You download that and you can extract that and put it on your radio by hand if you want to. I'm kind of a purist. So that's, if I ever set up a new SD card, that's how I do it. I do it via the source files, right? And you've got the SD card here, you've got sounds here, you've got themes here, and Lua scripts here. So those are examples. And that's about it. All right. So those are a couple of different ways to do it. If you want the manufacturer's version of the default shipped SD card contents, you need to work with the manufacturer to get that. And I do know that Radiomaster does keep a zip file on their website that allows you to go in and download, right? You can go in and download their zip file and install, their copy, their modified copy on your radio. I don't like that one because they install, I know in Radiomaster's case, they add extra voices and stuff that I don't care to have on my radio. So to me, it's just a waste of space. I don't want all that junk on there. So I use the GitHub version from Buddy, from EdgeTX. Okay. Next up, I updated my X9D to 293 and the firmware has been filed. Okay. So I went and looked back on this one and the firmware has always been file. I'm not aware of in OpenTX or EdgeTX any instance where the firmware was anything but a bin file. So I'm not sure exactly the nature of the question, but the other thing I would say is that we ended up having a further conversation on this, and he said, I went from OpenTX to 2.9.3 and I didn't have to stop at 2.8. That's fine as long as you want your model. Don't care about your models. If you don't care about your models, go ahead. You can go straight to 2.9.3. It doesn't matter. It's not the firmware that's the problem. The problem is that in 2.8, after 2.8, sorry, I should say in 2.9, it was after all 2.8, even the point releases, they removed the converter. So the radio will no longer convert bin to YAML. So if you want your models and you're going to go from OpenTX to EdgeTX, you need to either stop at 2.8 or use Companion, or that's it. If you go straight from OpenTX to 2.9, the radio will not convert your binary files. It won't do it. It'll skip over because they took that functionality out. All right. And let's see. Is that it? That's it. That's it. All right. That's it for Q&A. So let's go back to the desktop. I'm going to check questions and then we're going to wrap this one up. Let's see. My volume is backwards. I asked you in a video comment and you didn't think it could. Yeah, I didn't think you could. I actually, in fact, just for clarity here, let me show you guys something. I think I wound up having a discussion with the developer about it and he mentioned it. And my problem was this simple. And that was this. If you go to POTS, developers, I don't know if they're paying attention or not, but this is not labeled. That's not labeled. What I thought was that meant on or off, enabled or disabled. That's what it looked like because that's what a lot of the on-off switches look like. It doesn't say inverted. So that's why I never thought of it being an inversion switch. And I think I talked to one of the developers and he said, oh yeah, you can invert with the switch. I'm like, really? So I went and checked and sure enough, it worked. So there you go. So that's the answer. No label. So developers, maybe labels up here would be good. Let us know what those are for because I didn't know. And you guys know I tinker with this thing all the time. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. And Companion. Yeah. Companion does have it labeled too, I think, by the way. All right. Let's get back to the desktop here. And I think in terms of comments, that's it. That's all I see. All right. That means we can talk about what's coming up next. Okay. What's coming up next? I told you guys already, we're going to get back in the field. We're going to do some flying. Fred's going to hopefully make it tomorrow. Dave's supposed to make it tomorrow. We do have weather. We're in Florida rainy season right now. So pretty much set the clock by the amount of rain or when the rain starts. So hopefully the rain will hold off and we'll get a chance to fly tomorrow. And I can tell you there's going to be a lot of helicopter flying. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I made in 3 helicopters in one day. I took the Raw 420, the M4 Max and the Raw 700 maidened all three of them same day, which is starting to give me a lot of confidence in the Nexus. Now, with that said, they're not tuned yet. So, you know, they're up and flying. The 420 looked pretty good. I was super nervous that day because it was just, you know, three helicopter maidens one day. That's kind of crazy. Shot my nerves. But I'll get back up there and fly, and we'll do some tuning. Hopefully I'll be able to get a hold of Rob if I need a lifeline, and or, you know, I'll do my own tuning with my own research, and we'll try and get those Nexuses dialed in a little bit. But they're flying. They fly well. They obey the commands. You know, they're perfectly controllable. They're just on a couple of them. There's a few things I want to work out. So that's it. That'll be coming up. And then again, I think we'll be doing hopefully some fixed wing shenanigans, but whatever the case, we definitely plan on doing some flying tomorrow. We'll get some video material out there. We're still working on the PID video. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. All I'm going to say is it's going to happen. I just don't know exactly when yet. All right. So hang tight on the PID advanced tuning video. We will do that. And then the other thing that's coming up that I wanted to make sure you're aware of is the EdgeTX Fest. So I'm going to bring that up, and let's see, EdgeTX Fest. Google that, and I'm going to bring that up so you guys can see it. I wanted to remind everybody what's going on if you're not aware. So let's see, workspace. Here we go. EdgeTX Fest is coming up. And I really hope that we see a lot of people attend this. So if you're not aware, here's what's going on. The EdgeTX developers have decided that they're coming to Florida in October. The event is the 26th, 27th. That's a Saturday, or a Saturday and a Sunday in October. And in the event, we're going to have some events. We're going to have some airplanes there for people to fly. That we'll do guest rides. We'll do some giveaways. There will be some radios given away. You'll be able to interact with the EdgeTX team and talk with them and shake their hands, put a face to the name. We've already got some sponsors lined up. We've got BK Hobbies, Beta FPV, Radio Master, FlySky, Jumper, and FMS. They're all sponsoring the event, and it's going to be a good time. We really don't know how many people are coming. It's unclear how many attendees we'll have, but it is coming up October 26th and 27th. The RC Video Reviews crew will be there. Dave will be there. John will be there. Fred will be there, of course. And it is also an AMA sanctioned event. So just be aware, if you show up, I want to be very clear. If you want to fly, you have to be a current AMA member. So you have to show your AMA membership. You have to have your card with you in order to fly. It will be open field flying. There aren't going to be any, we're not locking the field down. So if you want to fly, you can come and fly, but you have to bring your AMA card, and you have to be rated for the type you want to fly. So, if you don't have a turbine waiver, don't come and try and fly a turbine. You have to have, or the heavy plane. If you have a heavy model, and you show up with that, you have to have the certificate allowing you to fly heavy models. Okay. So you know what those are if you're into the heavy stuff. We're not going to break the rules. It's an AMA sanctioned event. That means it'll be governed by AMA rules. So that's that. I just wanted to make sure you were all aware, and I will be doing regular announcements in my production videos and in live streams, making sure everybody's aware of EdgeTX Fest 2024. It is only a couple of months away. Love to have you. It's at the Larks RC Club in Tavares, Florida, 26, 27 of October. Okay. All right, so that's it on that front. We can go back to the desktop and wrap up what's coming up. So it's the helicopter flying, the day at the field video. I still have the jets video. I'm sitting on that one for the time being, and that may come out sooner rather than later. We'll see how things go over the coming weeks. And the Nexus videos. I also mentioned the last time in a live stream that I'll be doing point videos on Nexus, and they're going to be basically quick problem solving things that you might want to do. So I already put one out, for example, on how to flash F-port or how to flash your Express LRS receiver over rotor flight. So I put videos like that out. Those are point videos, very focused on a given problem. So they're a lot shorter in nature, just a quick little action you can take on rotor flight to solve a problem. So they're not huge setup videos. And that's about it. That's what I've got coming up. No one wants to see that twisted sister. EdgeTX Fest 2024. Johnny, going the right way to put in time out. Oh, I hope you come out, man. That'd be great. I hope you guys all come out, man. I hope to see everybody there. It'd be great to see a good showing from the RC Video Reviews YouTube channel. That'd be fantastic. All right, that's all I've got for today. Jeff, thanks for the nice comment. Great show, John. Well, I appreciate that. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. And if you can, get out there and fly something. Take it easy.